It's time for Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, the show that helps you be prepared to care for your family regardless of the circumstances that may come your way. Now, here's your host for today, Mark Lamb.
Well, here we go again. We're with Glenn Boblitz from Sustainable Living, and Glenn stopping in the studio today with an interesting topic.
Yeah, we're going to talk about having a sustainable life or a primitive life. You can survive both of them. One's just a little easier than the other. In fact, it's a lot easier. So we're going to get into that and see what the difference is.
The sadness, Glenn, is right now people in the Carolinas are experiencing.
Not just the Carolinas. It's all the way through the South.
Yeah, Georgia and Florida got hit.
Yeah, from Georgia on up. Even little Giles County right here in Virginia.
Yeah.
New River went 24 foot over flood stage and did some serious damage.
Yeah.
Pigeon Forge, for goodness
Yes,
sake. They lost the whole bridge that's going in, which is a major artery into Pigeon Forge.
Saw that picture of the street, that one main street in Gatlinburg, just devastating.
Yeah, it tore it up. And we've got another one coming in, so let's be praying for these people and help them out where you can. I know money's tight, but these people need help. I mean, real help. And no one's coming to save them from your government. I'll guarantee it. FEMA hasn't even moved a muscle yet. What's that tell you, folks?
Yeah.
All right. The difference between a sustainable life or a primitive existence, it always starts with water. Without a safe, renewable source of water, the odds of you surviving in your home are very, very low. You would have to leave your home, whether you're going out to just get water and bring it back, or just leaving your home to somewhere that does have that sustainable water. People are just not getting that, and that's bad. So I started looking up a bunch of statistics on this stuff and went to 4 or 5 resources I've used in the past, and I've done a similar show to this and gave those same kind of numbers out, but it's surprising how much they've changed, and we'll get into that.
Okay.
So they studied how many people have water stored up for a 15-day event, or maybe a little longer, 15 to 30 days.
Okay.
And only 12% had enough water to sustain themselves for 15 days or more.
Okay.
That's pretty low.
Yeah, that's terrible.
But it's way up from what it used to be. Used to be 3 to 4% because everybody didn't think about that.
Sure.
So for a 30-day supply of water, only 6%. So what that tells me is they have cases and cases of stored water, more than likely, or they have a water source nearby.
Right.
Then you stretch that out to a 60-day, be a major event. Only 3% had 60 days of water, which tells me that's the people with wells that have backup pumps or hand pumps. That's not a whole lot of people.
Right.
But reading those statistics in reverse is what worries me.
Yeah.
If only 3% have water, that leaves 97% out scrambling for water.
Right.
I just said FEMA has not even made it to the Carolinas, Georgia. They haven't done anything.
Right.
You can only go about 3 days without water.
That's right. That's right.
Did you hear what I just said? And it's been almost a week down there. This is not good.
No.
Take the same kind of statistics for food. This one was a shocker to me because the numbers used to be really low. They had a week or two of food in their house back 3, 4, 5 years ago. Now it's up to 36% of the people have at least 15 days worth of food or a little longer. Now, what do you think caused that? All these advertisements, Patriot Supply.
Patriot Supply, right. And you got the generators and all that.
Public service announcement. You should have 30 days of food. So that is working. That, prepping has gone kind of mainstream here.
It has.
So having that number move move the needle that much, people are paying attention a little more. And thank goodness they are.
Well, I've mentioned here on the show that when we were fostering, we had to prove that we had some backup food and
Really?
those kinds of things. Yeah. That was the state of Virginia required us to make sure we had,
That you were food secure.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Well, good thing.
Yeah.
So you go to move to 30 days worth of food, 30 days or more, and it drops down to 25%. That's still way above what it used to be.
Right.
Used to be that number was 3% or lower. So at 30 days, 75% of the people are going to be out searching for food. Kind of ugly there.
Yeah.
This is the difference between sustainability and just primitive living. So you stretch it out to 60 days or more, only 9%. Now, that's believable. And those are the people that have really hunkered down, have deep larder or family farms that they can sustain themselves longer than 60 days. Here's one, the ability to cook. Now, if you've got food or dehydrated this and 100 pounds of beans,
Right.
you got to be able to cook that.
Sure.
You can't just soak beans and think you're going to eat them, and that's not going to work. Only 17% of the people have the ability to cook. Now, that's probably a grill or a propane or something of that nature. It's
Sure.
not going to be electricity, that's
Right.
for sure. After 30 days, it drops down to 6%. So that tells me they're going to operate off of one tank of fuel as a buffer, one tank of propane. Maybe they have a larger tank. That's probably the 6% people. Or they have another means. Wood, for goodness sakes, people, you live in Virginia in the middle of the mountains. There's wood everywhere.
That's right.
But people are not going to be able to do this in these suburban areas. You ever been to a campground and go to look for firewood? That was gone 10 years ago. You stretch it out to 60 days, now you're down to 5%. And those are the people that are probably going to be burning wood and have a wood stove in their house or a means to cook, a grill, but they have the energy supply to do that, which is more than likely going to be wood.
Yeah.
So not only are you going to have to cook, you're going to have to boil water. Because I just said, a lot of people don't have water. So they're going to have secondary sources of water, of which they're going to have to filter, then boil. If you don't have a way to boil that water, you can't drink that water. Just filtering it is not going to do it. The little bacteria are really good at going right through those filters because they're little tiny animals that will make you sick.
Yeah, right.
So boil water.
Yeah.
You see after the floods, everybody's under boil water orders, and you better do it.
Yes.
All right. So that's all kind of ugly. And my point to all this is you may be sustainable, but most people are not. So you're going to have to, either help your neighbor or protect yourself from your neighbor. One or the other. Food, water, shelter.
Boy, those aren't good
ability to
choices, Glenn.
Well, I don't give a darn what people think or like. It's just a harsh reality. Ask these people that are going through this flood how desperate they're feeling right now.
Yes.
Now, you can believe that there's a whole lot of them that's got this surprised look on their face. What do you mean FEMA's not coming to help us?
Right.
That's what they expected. They expect, big FEMA tractor trailers to roll in with food and water and all that good stuff and a lounge chair,
Have we not learned anything what happened in Hawaii?
Yes.
They threw a $700 check at people that had nothing left.
And said, here, do the best you can.
Yeah, we took care of them.
Okay, so, that's a pretty primitive way to live. If they can live at all, they would have to leave. You can't stay there.
Right.
So would this drive you from your home?
Yeah.
That's the next item on the list.
Yeah.
There's 5 things that I think will drive you from your home, make you leave the safety of your home to go out and seek and find these basic critical needs. If you do not have them, you will go out and seek them out. One is we talked about the lack of water. That will drive you from your home to go either resupply,
Right.
go outside to do a filtering process or boiling process, because you can't do a wood fire in your kitchen anymore because your kitchen is set up for electricity. So you're going to be doing this outside, exposed. So if you're going to have to go somewhere, and hopefully it's like your neighbors, or you have to go a mile or two away. If you're in a suburban area, all those other people are doing the same thing. So water's going to be a critical thing in suburban areas. Now, what do you think is going to happen when people find a source and don't want to wait in line because their children are thirsty or they are thirsty?
Right.
These are the realities that everyone down to the south is for now, are being as patient as they can be. And the churches are coming in. Mercury One has been flying stuff in. You know, but that can only last so long. You know, there's only so much resources out there. So you have to set these resources up yourself. No one's coming to save you here, folks. So the lack of food, same way with the water. You're going to have to go out and find it, scavenge for it, maybe hunt for it, but so is everybody else. Don't count on being able to hunt for your subsistence. It's not going to happen because they'll be gone in 30 days. People are just going to shoot and kill and eat everything because they're hungry.
Yeah.
I mean, I've eaten a lot of things in my lifetime, not because I thought they were the best in the woods. It was, hey, it was meat on a table, you know? Bartering.
Yeah.
That's going to come back in.
We've talked about that before.
Let me charge my battery up so I can communicate with my CB radio or ham radio. Well, there's going to be a barter system set up for that. Okay, sure, I'll let you use my solar panels for 2 hours for this.
Right.
For that. Yeah. That's what's going to happen. Food is going to be a little tougher. They're not going to want to give up their food. Now, unless you have something really needed by the person that has the food, they're not going to give it up. So having that set up for more than the 30 days, definitely more than the 15, and that would be a small event, just like the flooding,
right,
around here. Down there, they're looking at 60, 90 days.
Yeah,
and I'll guarantee they're not going to be able to stay there because the resources are just too thin.
Just not going to be.
And there's, some of them, the house is just gone.
Right.
So they're going to have to relocate. Well, what if that's on a massive scale, just like his port strike?
Yeah.
Folks, that's more important than what you think. A whole lot of stuff comes through that port, including fuel and energy. I don't put a whole lot of faith in this when it comes to money and power. You know, there's a whole lot of things going on that we'll never know in that whole scenario. So, you know, I'm telling you, brace yourself for impact. It's all over the news. You know, prepare for empty shelves. Holy crap! Here we go again.
Yeah. Well, a devastating, and you're in construction. So a devastating thing like this, where do you think all the OSB and all the timber and they don't need it yet because they can't even get it in there. But eventually,
that's the secondary wave of supplies that's going to have to be pulled from the whole country. I mean, because they're wiped out.
Yeah.
All right. We talked about the lack of water, lack of food, weather. We're sitting here talking about floods and another hurricane coming through.
Yeah.
If it dropped down just extremely cold, 13 below, and you have no power in your house, you're going to have a hard time staying in the house. You're going to have to go find heat somewhere.
Right.
Because hypothermia will take you out.
Yes, it will.
You just get sleepy, you go to sleep, and you don't wake up.
Right.
So extreme cold could do it. A fire in your house is devastating. It will just absolutely ruin everything in the house. If it burns it to the ground, that's a no-brainer. You know why it's devastating. But if it just burns up your kitchen, that's where most fires start. Burns up your kitchen, you have no way to cook. Most likely your food was in there. So a fire is pretty devastating. So what are you telling me all this stuff for? So you can do something about one of these possible threats, like a fire extinguisher, for goodness sakes.
Right.
Like a backup heat whether you have a chimney in your house, you can put up a wood stove, whatever it is. If you want to stay in that house, you're going to have to prep the house too. Just like you're prepping for your food and water, you're going to have to prep the house too.
Right.
Tornadoes and floods, we're experiencing it right now.
Yeah.
You better take a look around what's happened to those people so it doesn't happen to you and catch you off guard. Because it not only tore up these people's houses, it tore up the infrastructure 20 miles up the road.
Sure.
And you can't build that stuff overnight.
You see that picture of I-40? Just half of it's gone. The southbound lane is gone, and there's like the northbound lane that there's the runoff. I mean, it slid out from underneath its own.
Everything was saturated to start with, and then that horrendous amount of water came down, and when water starts to move and starts picking up sand, then gravel, then rocks, then boulders.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about a meat grinder that would just chew up everything. Asphalt, it doesn't matter.
Even matter.
Zoom, gone. We were talking earlier. I worked the flood of '85 in the National Guard, and that was devastating down there. Them people had no idea how bad it could get, and some of that is the Corps engineers' fault.
Right.
They didn't keep the what's that little creek that runs through there? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think it's Roanoke River. Because they left the trees in the river, debris piled up. Then it created a dam. Well, the water's still coming. Now it's bringing more debris and all kinds of stuff. And it just created a giant dam across Salem. Well, Salem's shaped like a bowl. And they blocked up the end of the bowl. Well, now it looks like a lake. And that's what happened to those people.
Yeah.
So these things happen very quickly. Now, I mean, who would think Salem would flood like that? Me, that's who.
Right.
And it could happen again because they did do some restorations on that creek about 3 years after that. And they did a good job at it. They widened things out, pulled a lot of trees out. But I've noticed it's all right back. Not as bad, but still, it can still happen, folks. Medical was the last thing that I want to talk about. Actually, it's second to last. If you get injured and a grid down or a bad emergency like this flood, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
The hospital's knocked out. They don't have power either. The doctors can't get in because their house was wiped out or the roads were wiped out. So you really should be able to handle some type of injury, whether you have a cut and just be able to bandage yourself up and have the medical supplies to keep it clean, all this kind of stuff. In the medical, you should at least know.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have some major cutter that you're going to bleed out, my suggestion is you learn how to use a tourniquet.
Yes, exactly.
Which I do, and there's several groups that are running these kind of classes here in our community. Know it or not, it's called Stop the Bleed. Red Cross puts out several of them, and there's several community groups that are putting these things out. So we are trying to prepare to be sustainable for any threat, anything that disrupts our life. We should try to be somewhat prepared for. Like I said, that Stop the Bleed class, if you hear about it, go get it, because crap happens.
Right,
you know,
it does.
And when you're out working really hard, crap happens even more. Cuts, fingers, smashed toes, name it. It can happen. I've worked construction for 45 years. I'm telling you, I've got my scars.
How many times have I left the house without remembering to put the gloves? I keep an extra pair of gloves in my truck now, in the glove compartment. That's what it's made for originally, people. Keep some
Imagine that. Is that why they named that? Oh, dang,
keep a pair of cheap leather gloves.
Hand savers, I'm here to tell you.
They will save you.
Slip with a utility knife and go, wow, just cut the tip off my glove. Could have been worse.
Yeah.
Right. Sickness. Staying healthy will guard against the sickness. Keep your immunities up through good nutrition.
Right.
Duh. But you're still going to get sick. You know, there's bugs out there that just tend to creep in every spring and fall, and then the winter time hits and you feel a little wore out from fighting winter, and next thing you know, you got a bad case of sniffles. Well, there's a whole lot of herbal medicines that can, and I did say medicines, that actually will fix that and fight these infections. But eating well, eating nutritional food is the secret to it.
Mm-hmm.
You may get sick, but it doesn't last as long. That's
Right.
all there is to it. Cuts and abrasions, just the infection factor in which you can have herbals take care of that stuff.
Right.
Honey, for goodness sakes, is good to put on a wound to fight infection. Honey, just
Never would have thought that.
I mean, they've been using it for a couple thousand years here. Figure it out.
And we learned one of our Mind Jam trivias on the radio show I do with Janet Rose. The one thing that has almost an indefinite shelf life, if stored correctly, is honey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't say there's so much about honeys and honeybees and how important they are. That's a whole nother show.
It is.
The other thing people were talking about, especially with all the wars in Russia and Ukraine, it would be nuclear.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you may not get nuked here, but the world is round.
Yeah.
And that stuff floats.
It does.
So if radiation,
it's in the jet stream.
Radiation is another thing that could send you out of your home.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that the iodine helps protect you against some of the symptoms of the radioactive material.
Mm-hmm.
So, little precaution, little prep in your medical. Take a little medical training. In fact, take a lot of medical training because you've probably not had much of it.
Mm.
Then you come down to these pandemics. Could be epidemic. Could be worldwide, something nasty. These idiots keep playing with this stuff.
Oh, I know.
Making it stronger, and apparently they don't know how to keep it
Contain
bottled up.
And then they blame it on a wild bat in the food markets.
Well, what was the bat doing in the laboratory anyway? That's what I want to know.
That's right.
But at any rate, when those things kind of happen, you can see how it's going to disrupt everything. We lived through one of them. Some of us barely. Some of us come out the other side kind of ticked off, and some of us.
Well, hopefully we came out wiser at the other end.
I'm thinking
I'd like
not.
to think so. Well, some of us did.
Maybe a small percentage.
The skeptical ones came out wiser,
right?
Because they couldn't believe their own government.
And a lot of people did what they didn't want to do, and some of them are paying the price for that.
Right.
And, I don't judge them for doing it. They did what they thought was right, and it's all good.
Yeah.
I did what I thought was right.
Yeah. Well, let's take a break here, Glenn, and come back. I know that you said you had a couple things. We covered one of them. What else you have lined up on the other side of this break?
The effects if you don't have this.
Okay.
If you don't have these preparations, how's that going to affect you, and what's going to happen with other people that don't have these things prepared for?
Okay.
The ugly part. I give you what you should have done, but I'm going to tell you there's a penalty phase for not.
Yeah. We're with Glenn Ballblitz, Sustainable Living Made Easy. We'll be right back.
Get ready for a new soundtrack for your life. Doc Rock, Smith Mountain Lake. It's music that'll take away your troubles for a while.
That's what I'm talking about!
Wake up with Janet and Mark on the Morning Jam. They'll keep you informed and encouraged, and we all need more of that.
You say jam?
You're invited to be a part of the Doc Rock family, your feel-good station. Doc Rock, Smith Mountain Lake.
We're back with more Sustainable Living with Glenn Ballblitz. Be sure to look for Sustainable Living on Facebook for even more information and follow-up conversations with other members. Now, here's your host, Mark Lamb.
Back with Glenn right now, Sustainable Living. You were talking about the penalty phase. I've been to enough hockey games to know when you get stuck in the penalty box. And my first Liberty game of all games, Christian University, the opposing team had a couple of guys in the penalty box. This kid had a hockey stick sitting in the stands, walked up to the plexiglass and sat there and banged on the plexiglass, intimidating the other team. Of course, the hockey players couldn't get to this kid because the glass goes up 15 feet. but he went there and banged. So they were like, they couldn't hardly concentrate. And I'm thinking, what in the world are you doing? Well, they were paying a penalty on both ends. They were being penalized, and then they couldn't concentrate because this little kid's banging on the plexiglass. So there is something to be said about the penalty box, and we don't want to be there because we didn't listen to some of the things that you've told us to do.
That's a very good analogy. Because they did something wrong.
Right.
They got penalized. They were pulled out of the game. Now that hurt the entire team.
Yes.
And that's what I'm telling you here. It's going to hurt your entire community if you are one of the people that are becoming the problem. You're out scavenging and searching for water. Now, if you're doing that, there's a lot of other people going to be doing that, or not as maybe as patient as you, or maybe not as nice as you,
right,
or worse. I mean, we've got a lot of migrants here.
Yes.
These people are used to living on nothing, and they know how to handle that. Now, Americans, hardworking Americans, they're very, very giving people. Christians, very open. We'll try to help people, but not everybody is there for help. They're there to just take what they want.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these people have come into this country, because they had nothing where they're coming from, and they're coming to get something.
Yeah.
Now, if the crap hits the fan, they're not going to be even as nice as they are now.
Right, right.
Which, from what I'm hearing in the news, is not very nice. And I don't mean to disparage the immigrant population by no means. I've worked with some of them. They're great people, and some of them are not.
Yeah.
But I can say the same thing about Americans.
Well, true.
I was going to make a political statement there, but we'll let that go.
Okay.
So physical threat could drive you from your home.
Yes.
Half a dozen of them, 20 of them, 30 of them, 40 of them, 100.
Yeah, how are you going to stave off that?
How are you going to fight that off? You're not. So putting all your eggs in one basket and maybe not quite as smart as just, having a little bit in case you do get run out.
Yeah.
Having, a bag of beans and maybe a spare club. I won't say a AR-15 fully loaded 6 mags, but just anything to get you out of there and keep you safe, because you're going to run into people, and people are going to be angry, mad, desperate. And I'm just hearing you, a desperate man is a dangerous man.
Yes.
Don't be that person.
Right.
Take all these things that I just ran through, and you make sure that you're working on it diligently, or you can check it off the list.
Yeah.
Water, food, shelter, medical. May I add communication?
Yeah.
Communication is
we need to do a whole show just on that.
Is pretty important, because you need to know what's coming at you, what's happening around you, and the radio station things are not going to be operating because they don't have power.
Right.
I mean, they did an interview to a guy down in, I think, North Carolina. He had to drive 50 miles to get out of the mountains so he could get up high enough that he can pick up a frequency from 2 counties over.
Yeah.
So you having your own communication is going to be huge. You will become a hub of information. We've already set up several of us that are going to just jump from one radio to another, so we can pass that information along from town to town to town.
Repeaters.
Right. Well, there's repeaters, and then there's just hand delivering information.
Right.
I can reach you, but I can't reach out. Well, I can reach out farther, and so on and so on. That's how that's going to work. Now, ham operators, they can reach a long ways, and they'll be able to find out things that 2 states away, a country away. So you might want to get into one of these little radio clubs, one of these little radio circles, these little handheld radios.
Are they making the crank-up hand radios? You've got the crank-up radios.
They have a little dynamo in them. Yes, they do have them, but it's far easier now to buy a small solar panel and a
okay.
battery and a little lithium battery just
Right.
for your radio setup.
Sure.
You don't want any of these lithium batteries to run all the way down. That's a lithium battery killer. Letting it
Really?
run all the way down
I did not know that.
because it doesn't come back up to 100% charge.
Okay.
It'll
So
come
you're
up,
shortening the life of it.
right, comes
Okay.
up to 90%.
Got it.
Second time you do it, it may only come up to 80%. So you really do need to educate yourself on these kind of technologies. If
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you're going to get them, read about them first. And
Right.
understand there's applications for each.
Right.
And that's about all that. And it's not all doom and gloom, folks. If you do this, you can live that sustainable life and make it a little easier on yourself and your family and your community. Think about it, folks. Please
Yes.
don't end up just devastated and no hope.
Yeah.
That's what this program's all about. Is trying to give you hope and showing you how to do it.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, as always, thank you for ending that on a positive note, because we've just had a great reminder with this storm that has come through, how even these principles apply just in this situation. You know, the end of the world might not happen, but local storms do, and we're hoping that that's the only one we have to deal with, are these occasional storms that come through instead of the other. But you better be ready for both.
I agree.
Thank you, sir. We'll do
Thank
this
you.
again next week.
All right.
Join us again next week for Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, helping you be prepared and not scared. This podcast drops every Friday anywhere you get your podcast.